NFL Week 5 is almost here, and it all kicks off with the Miami Dolphins taking on the Carolina Panthers, a matchup packed with intensity and big storylines. Miami is pushing to climb back to 2-3 on the season, aiming to stack up their second straight win and keep their playoff hopes alive. Now, one of the biggest questions surrounding the Dolphins right now: what's next for Tua Tagovailoa? Will he still be the quarterback of this team 2 years from now? Honestly, the odds don't look great. Tua has shown flashes of brilliance, but his limitations are hard to ignore. When a new head coach and general manager eventually take over in Miami, they'll likely want their own quarterback to build around. Someone they personally choose, not someone they inherit. Tua's contract makes it tricky for Miami to move on right away. Realistically, he's locked in until after the 2026 season, when the Dolphins will finally have an out that won't crush them with a huge dead cap hit. So yes, Tua will still be in Miami next season, but beyond that, the future feels uncertain. And before we dive deeper, don't forget, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share this video with your football crew. And of course, tap the bell icon so you never miss any breaking Dolphins updates or live coverage every game week. As for this Sunday, we'll see if Miami can grab another victory when they host the Panthers in Week 5. All eyes are on this team to prove they're not done yet, that they can fight back and make noise in the AFC race. And speaking of comebacks, could we see Storm Duck return to the field soon? Will he jump right back into a starting role once he's healthy? That's the next big question we'll tackle. Honestly, I don't think Storm Duck is going to be a starter when he returns. He's been working his way back from that ankle injury and hasn't played since Week 2. The Dolphins decided not to place him on injured reserve, but his status for Sunday's matchup is still very uncertain. As of now, all signs point to him sitting out. He hasn't practiced all week, which isn't a good sign. Meanwhile, Rasul Douglas has been nothing short of impressive for Miami. According to Pro Football Focus, he's graded as the 6th best cornerback in the NFL this season, and that's no fluke. He's been consistent, physical, and confident, locking down receivers week after week. Against the Patriots, he was lights out. Against the Bills, he held his own. And on Monday Night Football, he limited Garrett Wilson to almost nothing. That touchdown still looks questionable to me. But even with it, Douglas has been rock solid. And then there's Jack Jones, another bright spot. Over the last 6 quarters of football, he's been one of Miami's most reliable defenders. His performance against the Jets stood out, and in the second half versus Buffalo, he helped spark a few critical stops that kept Miami in the fight. With the way Douglas and Jones are playing right now, it just doesn't make sense to shake things up. Storm Duck might get back into the rotation eventually, but a starting role? Not anytime soon. Believe it or not, this cornerback duo has quietly become the strongest part of the Dolphins' defense, something few expected heading into the season. Now, shifting gears, with Tyreek Hill ruled out for the season, should the Dolphins switch things up offensively? Maybe lean heavier into a too-tight end formation? Honestly, yes, I think we'll definitely see more of those sets going forward. It's something I've been saying since Monday's game. It just fits where this offense is right now. One player who could truly benefit the most from Tyreek Hill's injury is Darren Waller. With Hill sidelined, Waller is stepping into a massive opportunity, and he's quickly becoming one of Tua Tagovailoa's go-to targets when it matters most. We already saw flashes of it in Week 4, during his Dolphins debut. On 3rd and 5, first key drive of the game, Tua hits Waller for a 14-yard first down. Later, 4th and goal, another connection, this time a jump ball touchdown where Waller simply outmuscled the defender. Then again in the red zone, play-action bootleg, Waller slips out into the flat, catches it, and walks it in for another score. It's clear there's already a real connection and trust between Tua and Waller. Expect that chemistry to grow even stronger as Waller becomes the focal point of this offense in high-pressure downs, especially in the red zone and 3rd down situations. And while Julian Hill will still see plenty of snaps because of his blocking, I fully expect Miami to use more too-tight end formations moving forward. We'll probably see a rotation featuring Nick Westbrook-Ikhine and Malik Washington stepping into bigger roles, too. Don't be surprised if the Dolphins mix in some creative 2 or even 3 running back sets featuring Alec Ingold, Devin Achane, and Ollie Gordon. This offense is adapting fast. But here's the big question for Week 5. Backhand index pointing right, who you got? The Carolina Panthers or the Miami Dolphins? Type C for the Panthers or MIA for the Dolphins down in the comments. My prediction? Miami keeps the momentum rolling with a 23-16 win. And one more name to keep an eye on, Juju Brents. When Miami claimed him off waivers after the Colts released him, I was intrigued. Brents brings excellent size, physicality, and a lot of potential. He showed flashes of promise during his first season and a half in Indy before injuries slowed him down. If he stays healthy, he could quietly add some much-needed depth and toughness to the Dolphins' cornerback room. As for Juju Brents, I don't see him cracking the lineup unless something unexpected happens, like an injury to Rasul Douglas or Jack Jones. But that raises an interesting question. If one of those starters were to go down, would Miami turn to Storm Duck first or give Brents a shot? It's an intriguing situation. Brents has upside, size, strength, and potential, but the coaching staff might lean on experience if they're in a playoff chase. If I had to predict, I'd say we're more likely not to see Brents on the field this season than to see him make a major impact just yet. He's one for the future, but not quite ready to move the needle in 2025. Now, another name that's been buzzing among Dolphins fans lately is Theo Wease Jr. And yeah, the hype is real. Wease was electric in the preseason, hauling in 10 catches for 104 yards and 2 touchdowns. Most of that came with the third-string offense, but he showed great hands, solid route running, and clear chemistry with the backup quarterbacks. Still, I don't think Miami calls him up just yet. If they plan to elevate him, they probably wouldn't have signed Cedric Wilson Jr. off the Saints practice squad to the active roster. That move tells you the Dolphins are filling Tyreek Hill's absence with proven experience rather than an untested rookie. That said, Wease Jr. is absolutely someone to keep an eye on. Jalen Waddle and Tua Tagovailoa have both praised his work ethic recently, and that kind of respect inside the locker room means something. He's not headed to the main roster right now, but his future in Miami still looks bright. Now, let's talk trades, because Tyson Bryant asked a great question. Would I be down for the Dolphins trading for Chris Olave and Tyreek Hill, especially if this team turns things around and starts winning again? Let's start with Tyreek Hill, and honestly, yes, I'd be all in on that move. Even if the Dolphins were struggling before the trade deadline, Woolen is the kind of player you build a defense around for the long haul. He's only 26 years old, stands 6 feet 4 inches, weighs around 210 pounds, and ran an unbelievable 4.2640 at the combine. His first couple of seasons in Seattle were outstanding, long, fast, physical, and a total mismatch nightmare for wide receivers. Sure, his numbers dipped a bit in the Seahawks' new defensive system, but the talent is undeniable. Miami's cornerback depth for next season looks thin. Jason Marshall Jr. is basically the only one under contract right now. Jack Jones, Rasul Douglas, Nick Needham, and Juju Brents are all pending free agents. That means this team will need to either sign or draft multiple corners this offseason. So why not get ahead of it? Trading for Woolen now would give Miami a young, high-upside player already proven at the NFL level, someone who could anchor the secondary for years to come. As for Chris Olave, that's where I'd have to pass. Don't get me wrong, Olave is an incredible route runner and has elite speed, but his injury history and contract situation make the move risky. He hasn't been able to stay consistently healthy, and Miami already has plenty of money tied up in offensive weapons. Trading valuable assets for a player who's been banged up and carrying a big cap hit just doesn't make sense right now. It's the same conversation we've had before about Tua Tagovailoa. Talent is great, but long-term reliability matters more. Miami needs durable players who can be trusted to stay on the field week after week. When you suffer multiple concussions in your career, your game changes, sometimes permanently. And that's exactly what we're seeing with Chris Olave. He's reportedly suffered 3 or 4 concussions since entering the league. And while Tua Tagovailoa's injuries may have been more severe, Olave's overall volume of head impacts has clearly taken a toll. He's no longer that explosive, deep threat we watched light up defenses during his early years in New Orleans. These days, he's more of a short yardage, possession-style receiver. In fact, he's been out-targeted and out-snapped by tight end Juwan Johnson in recent weeks, something that would have been unthinkable a couple of seasons ago. So, unless Olave could be acquired for an extremely cheap trade deal, I'm out. His contract is heavy, and his playmaking explosiveness just isn't there anymore. Miami already has enough depth at wide receiver to compete, and instead of forcing a trade, they'd be better off targeting a young wideout in next year's draft, maybe in the 3rd round. Now, shifting gears, let's talk about who needs to step up for Miami in the second half of the season. Offensively, that answer is clear: Jonah Savinia. The former second-round pick out of Arizona has been a major disappointment so far. Miami traded up to get him with the 37th overall pick, expecting him to solidify the interior of the offensive line. But right now, he's been graded as one of the lowest-ranked guards in the entire NFL, struggling badly in pass protection and giving up far too much interior pressure. If the Dolphins want to keep Tua upright and push for a playoff run, Savinia has to elevate his game. Plain and simple. It's been rough, no way around it. Jonah Savinia's performance has simply been a disappointment. The Dolphins need him to show real progress, something that proves he can still be a part of this team's long-term plans. He's got to step up, and soon. As for the defensive side of the ball, there are plenty of candidates who could use a wake-up call. Coming into the season, most of us probably would have pointed to someone in the secondary. But right now, the player who stands out most is Chop Robinson. Through the first several weeks, Robinson just hasn't made the impact everyone expected. He's only logged about 105 snaps, while Bradley Chubb has played roughly 165. Maybe more opportunity will lead to better production, but so far, Chop hasn't lived up to last year's hype. At the end of last season, Robinson looked like a rising star, one of the top pass rushers in football over the final 10 weeks. That's why expectations were sky-high coming into this year. Fans thought he could push into that top 15 edge rusher conversation, but instead, he's taken a noticeable step back. That's concerning for a team that desperately needs consistent pressure on defense. So if I had to pick two names that must elevate their play moving forward, it's Jonah Savinia on offense and Chop Robinson on defense. Both have the potential, but now it's about delivering when it counts. Now, shifting gears, Miller asked if the Dolphins should consider trading for Tee Higgins from the Cincinnati Bengals. And honestly, my answer is similar to what I said about Chris Olave. When it comes to Tee Higgins, there's no denying the talent, but there are also major concerns. Higgins has battled hamstring injuries, and while that's less concerning than the concussions that have affected Chris Olave, it's still something to keep in mind. Then there's the money. Higgins just signed a massive new contract, somewhere around $28 to $30 million a year, maybe even more. For the Dolphins, that's a tough fit financially. Spending that kind of cash on another wide receiver just doesn't make sense right now. If you're going to invest $30 million, it's better spent on cornerbacks or offensive and defensive linemen, positions that directly impact your ability to win in the trenches. And honestly, Miami already has enough at wideout for the short term with Jalen Waddle, Washington, and Westiny holding things down. If the team wants to prepare for the long term, especially with Tyreek Hill's injury situation, the smart move would be to find that next guy in the draft. A young receiver on a rookie contract gives you flexibility and keeps your cap space open for other key positions. Now, as for Tua Tagovailoa, the question is simple. Can he bounce back and lead this team for the rest of the season? He has to. There's really no other option. His future with Miami might already be on shaky ground, and this stretch of games could determine everything. Tua needs to prove he can lead, not just on the field, but in the locker room and at the podium. But to be honest, it's tough to see a big turnaround coming. The version of Tua we've seen through the first few weeks might just be the one we get for the rest of the year. Not drastically worse, but not significantly better either. He'll have to perform without Tyreek Hill, which makes the challenge even tougher. Hopefully he proves everyone wrong, but right now, it's hard to predict a dramatic bounce back. And that wraps up today's mailbag. More big questions await as the season moves forward, but one thing's for sure, Miami's next few games are going to tell us everything we need to know about this team's direction.